Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something you've probably never thought about, but that affects almost every piece of property out there. We're talking about the hidden legal pathways that crisscross our world, a really fascinating concept called easements.
So picture this. You've saved up, you finally find that perfect plot of land. It's beautiful, it's secluded, it's everything you wanted. You sign the papers, it's yours, and then it hits you. There's no road, there's no path. There is literally no legal way for you to get to your own land without trespassing. Talk about a nightmare, right?
Well, in the legal world, this nightmare has a name. It's called a landlocked property. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Your land is an island, completely surrounded by other people's property, with no way to get in or out. So what on earth are you supposed to do?
Well, that exact problem. Having a property with no road is where the law steps in with a really clever, though sometimes complicated, solution.
And that solution is the easement. You can think of it as a legal right to use a slice of someone else's property for one very specific reason. Now, here's the key. You don't own that land, not at all, but you do own the legal right to use it.
Probably the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like a permanent permission slip. You know, one that's actually written into the official property deeds, so your neighbor can't just change their mind one day. It's a formal, legal right-of-way.
Okay, so to really get how this legal pass works, we need to understand the two key players that are involved in pretty much every single easement situation.
So on one side, you have what's called the dominant estate. That's the property that benefits from the easement. It gets to use the path. And on the other side, you have the servient estate. That's the property that is burdened by the easement. It has to allow the access. One benefits, the other serves. It's this fundamental give and take.
This all begs a really important question, right? How are these things even created? I mean, they don't just appear out of thin air. Turns out there are a few very distinct ways that an easement can come into being. The most common, and honestly the most straightforward, is what's called an express easement. This is where everything is spelled out, plain as day, in a written document, like the property deed itself. It says who, what, where, and why. It's clean, it's clear, and it's on the record. No confusion.
But what if nothing was ever written down? Well, that's where things get interesting. You might have an implied easement. This is when a court looks at the situation and basically says, yeah, it's obvious an easement was intended here. For example, say someone sells off the back half of their property, but the only way to get to that back half is by using the original driveway. A court would almost certainly say there's an implied easement to keep using that driveway. It just makes sense.
And now for my personal favorite because it's just so wild, the prescriptive easement. Think of this as gaining a right simply through long-term habit. If someone uses a path across your land, and they do it openly, not sneaking around, continuously for a long time, and, this is the kicker, without your permission, they can actually earn a legal right to keep on using it. It's pretty amazing. It's a right that's earned through action, not through agreement.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that nightmare scenario from the beginning. If a property is truly, completely landlocked, a court can step in and create an easement by necessity. The law just recognizes that land without access is pretty much useless, so for the public good, it will create a right-of-way. It's like the ultimate legal safety net.
Okay, so let's get into the fine print. We're going to look at some common easements you might actually run into, how they can end, and most importantly, why any of this should matter to you.
Chances are you've encountered easements and didn't even know it. Utility easements are everywhere. They let the power company get to the lines on your property. A shared driveway? That's usually a right-of-way easement. Then you get the more unusual ones, like a view easement, which can actually stop your neighbor from building something that blocks your awesome view. Or a conservation easement, which restricts development to protect nature.
So all of this might make you wonder, once an easement is in place, is it there forever? Is it a permanent part of the land? Well, the answer is not always.
They can definitely end. The easiest way is through what's called a merger. That's when one person buys both properties. You can't have an easement on your own land, so poof, it's gone. The holder can also just formally release their right in writing, or they can abandon it by clearly stopping use. And sometimes, an easement was only set up for a specific amount of time, and that time has just run out.
So here's the big takeaway. The thing you absolutely need to remember. These rights and restrictions, they have a huge impact on property value and what you can actually do with your land. If you're buying property and you don't do your homework on easements, you could be in for a world of hurt, from having your building plans shut down to ending up in a super expensive legal fight.
And that really just leaves us with this one
Final thought. Property rights are not always as simple as a fence line. So the next time you look at any piece of land, maybe even your own backyard, it's worth asking, what unseen rights and invisible pathways might be crossing this property every single day?